Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to reading. Well, yeah, readings with Snickerman. Um, this time I have something a bit unusual that I have been requested to read. I decided to go into one of the servers that I'm a part of and request suggestions. I requested some suggestions, and one of the things that popped up in the suggestions given to me by Niall of the Nine. So props to Niall of the Nine for giving this to me. He suggested a story called The Cough. Now, before we get into this, I want to let you guys know ahead of time, it is a horror story, well, a creepy story, based on the children's show My Little Pony. If you have a problem with that, and you don't want to hear anything, go ahead and stop, move on to a different video of mine if you want to watch something else, or if you want to watch something else of mine. And if not, I'm sure there's other subscribers that you have better time to spend than me. It's up to you. But this was created back in 2011. 2011. My knowledge on the show isn't exactly the greatest. I know the basics, so... Anyways, it's called The Cough. It's by someone by the name of Eben Main. Whatever. But yeah, August 18th of 2011. That's when it was created, and it's on fanfiction, of all places. Okay, sure. We'll go with that. Link will be in the description below, and if you're still here and you want to listen to the reading, then I'm not going to spend any more time on anything else. All right. Oh yeah, and I one real quick thing. I will be changing some of the phrasing because I'm sorry, but the first line has the term "some pony." And I'm sorry, but I don't like that term. Already. I'm saying it now. I don't like the term, so I'm switching it to somebody. You don't like that? I'm sorry, but personal preference kind of beats anything else. So, anyways, in we go. In the darkness, somebody coughed. Who was it? Silence reigned. Who? A dim violet light sprang into being. Twilight Sparkle's horn barely illuminated the cramped, windowless room, and the 6 ponies within. A world of dark purples and inky blacks sprung into being, colors distorted by the monochrome aura of the magical implement. Shadows pooled in the corners, lurking just beyond the reach of the unicorn spell. Rainbow Dash watched as Twilight glared at each of their friends in turn. None spoke. Silhouettes danced along the walls as the unicorn moved her head, causing the light to jerk and shift. Pinkie Pie huddled near the barred door, eyes wide and uncomprehending as she stared off into an uncertain distance. The baker twitched slightly, squeezing the bag of flour that she clutched so tightly to her chest. On the room's only bed, Rarity lay next to Applejack, her head buried in the farmer's shoulder. The dressmaker shook as she sobbed quietly. Dash didn't know whether the unicorn's distress was because of their situation or because of their hygiene. The room reeked of unwashed bodies, and Rarity's mane, like everybody else's, was tangled and knotted, and hung heavy with filth. Applejack, for her part, merely stared stoically back at Twilight Sparkle when the librarian's gaze turned to her. And then those eyes were on Dash, and on Fluttershy. The two were locked in an embrace. It was the only comfort they had in the room. The weather pony found her voice when the other Pegasus began to shudder. What does it matter? Twilight Sparkle's brow furrowed. Get serious, Dash. It's better for 5 of us to go through this than none of us. Coughing is the only warning we get. Fluttershy's whisper carried well enough in the enclosed space. Couldn't we, wait and see? It could just be dust or a cold. Please? I really wish that we could risk it, Fluttershy, Twilight said, the sharp edge of her voice softening slightly. But there's no going back once it reaches the final stage. You saw what happened out there. Do you really want that in here? Applejack sighed, then spoke up. She's right, Sugar Cube. It's not contagious until the end. We got a choice to make. 1 death, or 6. Rainbow Dash gritted her teeth. Isn't there anything that can be done? Can't your magic cure it? Stop it? Slow it down? She paused, then added in a hoarse whisper, Anything? The unicorn shook her head. Even the princess can't cure it. She can only contain outbreaks that do happen. Every carrier has to die. That's the only way the rest of us can be safe. The only way the rest of Equestria can be safe. You know that, Dash. Time matters here. Why are you stalling? The weather pony's mouth worked, but no words came forth. Fluttershy's voice, suddenly confident, filled the gap. I coughed. It was me. Rainbow Dash gaped at the other Pegasus, eyes wide with shock and horror. The pink-maned mare turned to look at her and spoke, once again hesitant. It's okay. It'll be okay. I couldn't live with myself if any of you died, and I could have prevented it. It's better this way. Dash shook her head slowly and whispered a single no. Applejack's voice was grim. Her mind's made up. It's a tough choice, but Fluttershy's got the strength of an ox on the inside. How is she going to... The Pegasus trailed off. Twilight Sparkle sighed and slumped to the floor. We don't have any weapons, and I'm not trained in combat magic. Even if I were, it can't be me. It has to be you, Dash. What? Why me? The unicorn looked away. I know you well enough to realize that you'd never just stand aside and let one of us lay a hoof on your filly friend. Maybe intellectually you'd know that it's necessary, but your emotions get the better of you. Ask yourself, if it has to be any of us, would you really want anybody but yourself to? Rainbow Dash rose to her hooves. You're right. The mare's voice was hollow. She took a step away from the other Pegasus. Applejack spoke. Fluttershy, sit up and put your head up against the wall. It'll be a mite. The mare choked back tears. Quicker. I'm sorry, Rainbow Dash. I wish it could be any other way, Twilight said. The rainbow-maned Pegasus looked over her shoulder to meet the eyes of the mare she loved. Fluttershy had taken the Earth Pony's advice. They stared at each other silently for a moment. Eventually, Dash found words, as insufficient as they were. I'm sorry. I love you. I'm so sorry. The other Pegasus replied, voice shaking, I love you too, and I forgive you. It's better this way. Just make sure somebody takes care of the animals when this is all over, when everything is back to normal. Rainbow Dash whispered, I promise. She took careful aim. 1 buck. It would be quick. Fluttershy deserved that much at least. When she was sure she'd connect, vision or not, she spoke. Cut the light, Twilight. Nobody should have to see this. The horn's glow disappeared. Years of running and kicking clouds had honed Dash's muscles. She reared up on her front legs, gathered all her strength, and kicked out. She connected, and a dull thud was accompanied by the sensation of warm droplets splattering across her flank. It was followed by a high-pitched moan from the agonized pony behind her. Rainbow Dash reacted to Fluttershy's continued suffering without thought. She reared again and bucked repeatedly, steadying herself and adding force with swift flaps of her wings. On her 4th kick, the other mare's keening stopped, with a sickening crunch. The weather mare's hooves dropped back to the floor. She stood shaking, her eyes wide and her heart beating nearly out of her chest. Her fetlocks were drenched with sticky blood. She could feel it beginning to clot. She wondered, despite herself, whether the mess would stain, whether her coat would always bear the red residue of her deed. She wept quietly to herself. Silence reigned. In the darkness, somebody coughed. Okay! That's kind of fucked up. It says at the beginning, by the way, I probably should have said this from the get-go. Warnings and disclaimers, the gruesome tale of violence and death is not recommended for colts, fillies, or faint of heart. Whatever the first two means. I'm guessing it's adults or children. Or teens and children. I'm not sure. I don't know the full terminology, so... characters in this work are property of their respective owners, do not own any of them, and do not intend to make any sort of profit off of this work. This My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fanfiction involves shipping. If you don't know what it means, I'm going to explain it now. Shipping is when you take one character and another character, or one person and another person, and pair them up as a romance couple. For example, the most popular ones are Septiplier, that's Jacksepticeye and Markiplier, Yamaplier, or no, sorry, that one's called Marky Mash. Yami Mash and Markiplier. What was it? Whatever the hell the term was for PewDiePie, Cinnamon Toast Ken, and Cryotic, that was a popular one as well. Back before the whole debacle of, what the fuck is that news company? I think it's Washington Post, New York Post, something like that. Fuck if I care. But yeah, those would be shippings. So... there's that. And last but not least, if you are made uncomfortable by any form of romance between any intelligent beings, this fanfiction may not be to your liking. Continue only with caution. Definitely should have had this at the beginning. I do apologize for not reading that. So, but that is really screwed up, and based on the reaction of the characters, I'm actually curious about the answer of who actually coughed. I think it's actually frickin' Rainbow Dash. Based on the way she reacted, more than likely it was her that actually coughed. Because, well, let's face it, Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash were apparently cuddling together, or huddled together, whatever the fuck you want to call it. And apparently there was difficulty in figuring something out about the whole thing, and whatever the hell it is that the cough stems from is the most deadly disease in the entire world that this takes place of. And the only warning being a cough, a singular cough, is terrible. So, the idea that a disease could be that deadly, where a cough is the only signature or sign that someone has it, and if it isn't caught in time, it'll wipe out an entire species, that is terrifying. To someone like me who unfortunately has a constant cough because of allergies and a bunch of BS with myself, really. something like that, even if the potential was to exist, that's terrifying. And then forcing the loved one to kill their loved one. I'm sorry, but no. I'm sorry. I would never want to have to put someone through that. I'd rather be the bad guy and be the screwed up one and have to deal with it for the rest of my life, that I am hated because of what I did, and do it myself, if that was the case. Because I'm sorry, but having to kill someone yourself that you love? No! That shit's hard as hell to do. Unless you just didn't actually love them. I'm sorry, but fuck that shit. I'd rather be pinned as the bad guy and everyone hate me and probably kill me eventually than force someone who loves the person that's supposed to die to kill that person. I'm sorry, that's just how I am. Whether or not I'd be able to stand up to that kind of situation, in the case of my argument, doesn't matter. However, overall, I'm honestly not sure I could do it. And I hope I never have to deal with this kind of situation. But that is screwed up. Wouldn't really call it... Okay, so I just scrolled back up, and it actually states outright that it's horror/tragedy. So the horror part is the disease itself, that they only talk about as a cough, as the only form of signature that it provides that it exists. But the tragedy part is the actual thing that's in the story. So, it's effective for what it was listed as. I may not know much about the show, or enough about the stuff to actually understand everything, but it's good for what it was written as. Top keck. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. For those who stuck around to the end, I'm sorry that I went on such a long tangent. If you enjoyed this, awesome. Subscribe if you want to. Leave a comment. Suggest what you want me to read. I will read just about anything, okay? As long as it's not too childish or too, fuck it, I've been cursing this entire time. As long as it's not too pornographic and it's not too childish, I'll probably read it. Whether or not it'll become a video, that depends on length, interest, and whatever else. And personal choice, honestly. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!